What it is, I couldn't tell you. What do you think he's got there, Vim? Frogs?
Yeah, he's just sniffing.
He's just sniffing. Sightings like this just make me realize again and again how many times I've driven straight past a leopard and had no idea that I was being watched. He's now completely invisible. He is in the middle of that grass there. And look at that. That is wonderful. Now, I'm not sure how long we're going to spend with him, everyone. I mean, I'm more than happy to stay with him if you'd like us to stay with him for the rest of the drive. So perhaps let us know, should I stay or should I go? Hashtags for live questions at WildEarthTV. Should I stay or should I go? Frankly, I think it's not a bad idea just to sit with him, but I'm happy to move if you'd like me to. And Hayley, one of obviously the most common questions we have out here, because it's such a human thing for us, is if he was to come across Shivambalana or perhaps Quarantine, would they know that they were siblings? I don't think that they would, and I'll tell you why I don't think they would. Can you imagine that you met a sibling of yours having never met them before? So you were separated at birth, or you weren't even separated at birth, you'd never met each other, and then suddenly as adults you meet somebody randomly in the street, and there might be some sense of similarity, I suppose. You might look vaguely alike, but you'd never suspect that that person was your brother or was related to you. You wouldn't assume that there was some kind of familial relationship. Now, obviously things are different in the brain of a leopard. They have a much stronger sense of smell. They have a much more powerful olfactory response. It's possible that they would sense some kind of familial resemblance through their noses. I don't think they'd see any resemblance. I don't think that they would necessarily associate leopards close by with therefore being their relatives. So I'm going to say no. I think it would be maybe a sense of familial recognition, but I don't think there would be a, oh, that's my brother, best leave him alone sort of thing. And it's interesting that because, of course, if you are brothers with something, as is the case with the male cheetahs, often in a coalition, or with the males of a lion coalition, there is still an element of defending your own genetic legacy by making sure your brother has children. And of course, if we're talking in an evolutionary sense, that makes enormous sense. So if you have got a brother, for example, Hairy Belly Matimba and his brother, what did we call him again? Ginger. Is that what we called him? The Ginger Matimba and the Hairy Belly. The Hairy Belly seemed to dominate most of the mating opportunities that the two of them had, but because, of course, those two males share genetic material, it makes sense for even though the Ginger one wasn't often not the direct father of a lot of the cubs in this area, he was their uncle, and therefore he shared their genetic material, and therefore just by looking after them, he was perpetuating his own genetic legacy. And it's interesting in the leopards, I wonder if there isn't an element of that has been programmed into them through evolutionary time, where they do perhaps have some kind of familial or fraternal recognition that allows them to do that, and in so doing prevents infanticide. And because, of course, this leopard will share about 25% of the genetic material that Quarantine has. So if he comes across Quarantine or Quarantine's youngsters, would he kill them? Would there be some kind of evolutionary response that's been programmed into him that allows him to recognize those young cubs as related to him? Right, we're going to press on from here. The general consensus is that we should move on. The leopard is now utterly invisible, so let's press on from here, and while we do that, let us go and find out how the Velociraptor tracker is faring.
Well, we planned for a nice easy walk, you know, just a chilled little walking session, but Boris has other ideas. We've probably done about 3.5-4 kilometers now, and we're still on his trail, and we're probably only about 1 kilometer from the Buffalo's Hook waterhole. So Boris has taken us on a serious mission, but it has been fun. I haven't tracked a crocodile for years, so I'm hoping that he is actually still in the Buffalo's Hook waterhole. It's quite nice to track all the way to the end and see if we can sneak up on Boris while he's terrorizing terrapins. Watch the thorns there. There we go. He's continuing through. We lost his tracks for a little bit when we had a herd of elephants walk over the area, so we just had to sort of loop around, and that was more for our fun, because I'm pretty sure if we just shot ahead towards the next road closer to Buffalo's Hook waterhole, we would have found the tracks. So I'm just giving Herbie the thumbs up, and we're going to head up here now. We're coming out onto Gorrie Pan Road shortly, and we started at the southern boundary, and it looks like we're going to end at the northern boundary. But this is so exciting. I was really hoping we might catch him before he got to the next waterhole, but I think that's looking more and more unlikely now, as his tracks go off there. So we're just going to take a shortcut, jump ahead. He's been pretty consistent in his direction. Now, as I was saying, I've got lots of stories about crocodiles. Probably the most interesting one, for lack of a better word, happened in southern Tanzania. So we took over. Let's just move this for Craig here quickly. We took over an old hunting camp, or old hunting concession. So to give you an idea how big the area was, the whole of the Sabi Sands, the north, the south, the west, is 60,000 hectares. And the concession that I was running up there was 120,000 hectares, so 250,000 acres. We only took 6 guests at a time, and we got a lot of staff who were used to the hunting industry, which is very, very different. And the guys used to like to swim and bathe in the Luego River while we were out on drive, or after we got back from drive, or walk. And oh, that's a very big violet, very big, beautiful African violet here, a very tall one. Now, there was a gentleman by the name of Edie, who was one of our waiters, and one of the first things I did when I moved up there is I built proper. Well, there was no electricity. We didn't even have a generator. Everything, the fridges and stuff ran off solar, and I built bucket showers. We all had bucket showers, even the guests want bucket showers. So built bucket showers, but a lot of the guys didn't like using them, and Mr. Edie, at about 6:30 in the evening, 7 o'clock, was sitting. It was a very shallow river during the dry season, most of the river being about this deep. But at night, a crocodile is also a far more bold animal than it is during the day. And Eddie was sitting in the water and having a bath, and we just sat down to dinner with the guests, and we were busy in the training phase. It was really early days of that lodge, or that camp up in Tanzania, and I was trying to teach the guys that the fact that we're a little bit low on diesel or cooking oil doesn't mean you can sort of walk into the dining area without your shirt on in your pair of pants that were bought in 1974. So I was just trying to sort of do a bit of training and up the skill levels. Excuse me. And we just had starters, and mains had come, and Majaliwa, who was one of the guys who worked there, is standing just outside the lantern light. And I was like, and he was dressed in his work's clothes, but he just sat there. And so I said, okay, I didn't know what was going on. I took a bite of my meal, had a sip of wine, said, excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. I walked there. Yes, Majaliwa. Bwana Eddie has been taken by the crocodile. And that morning we had a meeting about what was important, what you could disturb. And Majaliwa couldn't decide whether disturbing me during dinner was going to get him into trouble. So he waited. So actually it turned out, quite fortunately, that it was quite a small croc, probably a little bit smaller than Boris, and it had bitten onto Eddie's arm. He was sitting in the water, so he looked much smaller than he was. I think if he had been standing, the crocodile wouldn't have tried. But it had latched on basically onto this section of his arm here, and his friends had his other arm. And I ran to my tent, I grabbed my rifle, I ran through there and actually jumped into the river. And by that stage, the crocodile managed to get him to probably a water about this deep, so it was getting a bit serious. And then I just put the rifle on the crocodile's head, and boom. Now, Eddie's was quite badly damaged, but he was very lucky. So crocodiles don't have ripping teeth or cutting teeth. They've got gripping teeth. So once that thing locks in, Herbie is whistling something fierce. Maybe Boris is still on his way. But so once that crocodile was, once we shot the crocodile, managed to clean him up, stitch him up, and then send him off to hospital. He was really lucky. Apart from the obviously the open wounds, he did have a broken arm. There's Herbie up ahead. So I said we're taking a shortcut. So I didn't catch that last question, but who it was from. But it was, do crocodiles have issues if they separate nerval? If they separated from the water for too long? Sorry, we can just pick up the speed a little bit to see what Herbie's got there. So nerval, like any animal, they can become dehydrated, and oh no, I think the tracks have just changed direction. I mean, slow down a bit. They do, but they are able to slow their metabolisms right down. And a great example of that is the Savuti Channel in Botswana. It flowed up into the mid-70s, and then it didn't flow again to the early 2000s. I mean, sorry, late 2000s. And certain crocodile species there would, for the whole dry season, move into these caves and sort of semi-shut down. Eventually, unluckily for them, the leopards learnt this and started picking them off. But if they're out of water for too long, it is a problem for them. But they can spend years out of the water if they're in caves and things like that. Or obviously with the wet season, then they'll go down into the water. But 6-7 months at a time, they're happy to spend out of water. Far more comfortable out of the water than a hippo, for say. So Crocodile just slightly changed his line, so Herbie was making sure we stuck with him. Remember, #SafariLive, or questions at Wild Earth, if you got any questions. But while we move back off the road on the trail of Boris, let's ask you a question. Now, How long has the Nile crocodile been in its current form? So in terms of evolution, Nile crocodile has been in this exact same way for how long? An impala's been the exact same way for 1.6 million years. How long has a Nile crocodile been that way? Hashtags Safari Live, questions at WildEarthTV. Now, while we follow the apex predator of the water, even though it's walking across the land, let's go to the terrestrial apex predator of Africa.
The terrestrial apex predator, two of the terrestrial apex predators of this area, in the form of two male lions sitting right on the boundary with a neighboring property, which means that for now this is the best view that we can get. But two, I presume, Birmingham boys, I actually haven't even really had a chance to see their faces, so I'm not 100% sure. My guess, I thought I saw a half moon cut out of that lion's right ear. Is that Tinyo? He does have a little half moon slit. Bit tricky to tell if you turn your head that way, mister. And flop. Male lions doing what male lions do best, which is settle down and have a really jolly good sleep. First thing in the morning. It's been a while since I've seen the Birmingham boys. It's actually been ages since I've seen a lion. So it is a really lovely surprise to see these two hanging out here, very close to a very large waterhole on Cheetah Plains called Djuma Dam. Just, to add to all of your confusion for those of you that are new to this area and to watching these live safaris. The two of them sleeping calmly in the comfort of the grass. And once one of the other vehicles that is in the sighting moves away, then we will have a chance to perhaps see their faces and get a better idea of which two Birminghams we're dealing with. And it seems as though so much has changed with our lion dynamics, or at least briefly changed with our dynamics recently. With the Matimbas moving up to the north, that was the conversation that I was having with one of the Arathusa trackers this morning about the fact that they were up north. And then the two Birminghams here, I'm not sure where the other two are, but for our newer viewers, this is a coalition of 4 male lions. Used to be 5. There are now 4 of them. One of them died of natural causes, we think due to an injury acquired when he was hunting. The 4 of them together collectively are known as the Birmingham boys, and they are the male lions that we definitely see the most of. They are dominant in this area, both of whom look quite hungry, if I'm not mistaken. Who have we got there? He just turned his head briefly, but not enough for me to see which lion we're looking at. Generally, with our Birmingham boys, Tinyo and Mufmo tend to be the ones together. They tend to stay as a pair, occasionally joined by Nena. Obviously, all 4 of them will come together during the evenings and then separate, move off in their different directions. When you've got a territory as large as the Birmingham boys do, it requires a sensible distribution of male lions to make sure that the boundaries are all patrolled and protected. Now, don't forget, just while we're sitting here and since our cats are peacefully sleeping, that because this is a live safari, now is your opportunity to ask any questions that you might want to ask. And you can do that using the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or email through to questions@wildearth.tv. I haven't heard any news of the Styx Pride, which is the pride that spends a lot of time in this area. Last we knew they were around Arathusa, and then they started moving back towards the east, but I don't think anybody's found them in the last few days, so I wonder if they're not hiding somewhere on CP as well, on Cheetah Plains as well. Might be worth, when we leave these gentlemen, just going and double checking that they're not somewhere around here. Here we go. I think it's been at least a month since I last saw a lion, so this is a lovely surprise. Well, there's another vehicle coming in, and I might need to do some chatting on the game drive comms. Oh, never mind. One of the others is going to pull out. So what we do is we try and manage sightings with these animals. So we make sure that they're not in any way pressured or overwhelmed or blocked by the number of vehicles, which means that for an adult animal sighting, in a situation like this, that means there'll be 3 vehicles sitting with them. And then, depending on how sensitive the sighting is, so let's say, for example, Shadow's cubs, then that will immediately change to 1 vehicle, or perhaps 2 in certain situations. But it's very carefully controlled to make sure that we don't in any way stress these animals. Other tax. I'll just shift out of Tax's way. Now, so for Tato, you want to know if there's a dominant male that takes his pick of the females when mating. Let me just shift, before I go into the answer to that, let me just shift out of Tax's way so that he can see these lines as well. Oh, we've got a little bit of a view here. How you got him there, Dave? So for Tato, it's an ever-changing thing. Generally, you'll find with male lion coalitions, because they're in control of a territory with several groups of females, or several prides of females, that means that there's always going to be an opportunity to mate. And often what you'll find as well is that the lioness's estrus cycle will extend to the point that one male will often take over once another male has exhausted himself mating with her over a few days. However, there is a certain degree of conflict that lions will come into when there is a female in estrus, particularly when the number of females in estrus is limited, and then they do fight. And you'll find that throughout the dominant years of a coalition, and a lot of our Birmingham boys are showing serious signs of injury, like Mufmo, for example, puncture wounds, scratches across their face, scratches across their legs, and that's normal for a lion coalition. So one might win that particular battle one time, and then another might come in and be victorious. He might have had a better meal, he might be feeling a little bit stronger, and so he will take the sort of title as dominant in inverted commas in a male lion coalition. But that dynamic is constantly shifting and changing. Mufmo seems to be the one, from when we've seen them with the Nkuhumas. Mufmo generally is the one that gets first dibs on mating. He's also the one who's, I think of all of the 4 of them, he's the one that has come through with the most serious injuries, particularly around his face. But as I said, that is an ever-changing thing. So it's impossible for us to say with absolute certainty which is dominant and which is the more submissive member. And of course, just like any other animals, individual lions have individual characters. So you might find that one is slightly more aggressive than another. The same applies for leopards. He's yawning again, rubbing his face. I think he's got a few fresh injuries around him. Not fresh, but definitely some injuries that I haven't seen before. Ouch. Puncture wound on his shoulder. It's all a day in the life of a male lion. And most of the injuries that we've seen the Birmingham boys with, as far as we know, have been inflicted by other members of the coalition. He's doing some cleaning, some yawning. It's quite a cool morning. It's the perfect kind of morning for big cat viewing. So these boys might actually decide to get up. They might decide to move about. But while we patiently wait to see what they decide to do, and of course to get a better vantage point, let's go across to Brent, who is making his way towards the next waterhole.
Okay, so we did something that's very important in tracking, is we knew where those tracks were going. They were going through some thick, thorny areas. We decided we were going to take a shortcut again, loop around, and we're about 60 meters from Buffalo's Hook Dam at the moment. So we're going to approach very quietly. Now, I don't think Buffalo's Hook Dam is going to be nearly as easy for him to hide as it was in Twin Dams. I think it's quite a lot shallower, quite a lot muddier, a lot more terrapins though. So we still don't have his tracks, but I think they're going to come through here. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are wondering what threats face a crocodile when it has to make a marathon move like that. Now, if elephants found it out, it would be quite dangerous for the crocodile. The elephants would definitely attack crocodile, and he's not as fast as the other predators, so a bit harder for him to get away. And the only other real threat to that big crocodile while it's moving would possibly be male lions. Maybe lioness might be big enough. Okay. Has Boris made it to Buffalo's Hook, or is he still coming? We're going to go really quietly. So, Angelina's asking how far will a croc travel for food? Well, we've seen he'll do easy 6 kilometers, but I've seen them do more, 40, 50 kilometers they'll move. Now, it doesn't look like Boris has arrived. Maybe we've jumped ahead of him. There's a very big tortoise down there, but I just want to still check for tracks. Now, of course, there's that deeper new section. Let's go here. We'll go to the tortoise. He's about to have a drink now. I just want to see if there are any tracks down here. Not seeing any. Now there is one other option, and it's the option I was quite scared of, is that dear old Boris has cut north towards Buffalo's Hook, where there's some bigger water holes. So I just want to see if he's not slid down. So there's been a lot of different answers to the quiz, from 1 million to 400 million years. Now, the modern day Nile crocodile is 8.5 million years in the same shape as he is now. Now, the crocodilian family as we know it today, alligators, American crocodiles, crocodile, I can't remember his name now, saltwater crocodiles, etc., really had their big splitting and evolving from about 120 million years. Herbie Loot. No. Well done, Patty said about 8 million years. Now, it doesn't look like Boris has made it here. We're still going to be a bit cautious to keep a little bit back from the water. I'm just checking if I can see any slide marks going into the water, but there isn't. But we've still got 2 more things here. And here's another one for the February bird list, the pied wagtail. Very, 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 very pretty bird. Now, lovely to have them back now we've got water. Now, we have a massive tortoise on the other side of us who's just come for a drink and is moving out of the mud. So let's try. That is a really old tortoise, definitely over 50 or 60 years. Big leopard tortoise. He's had to engage 4-wheel drive, low range, going through the mud. Look at him go. So, that's so cool. I'm going to see if there's a spot that's dry enough for us to get a bit closer. Now, you got to be careful in these places. You don't want to sink. Ooh. I'd be a bit careful there. Okay, you got a bit more weight than I do on your back. Let's come this side here. Hey, big guy. Or girl, can't really see yet. You're hiding behind some pondweed. Isn't that cool? Now you can see a tortoise of this size is not quite as nervous as excuse me, some of the smaller ones. Not quite retiring into its shell. Watch you don't sink on that side there, Craigie. That's a really big one. Can't really see whether it's male or female. I'm guessing probably a female. The females are quite a bit bigger than the males, as with quite a lot of reptiles, crocodiles actually being the exception, due to the fact that they've got to produce eggs. You often find in snakes, females are much bigger than the males. Lani and Damani are wondering whether a tortoise can swim. They can. They're actually quite good swimmers, and when it's hot they actually sometimes just go for a swim to cool down. So they are very good swimmers, in fact. Big old tortoise. Shame. Let's leave her. Now, Herbie, where do you think that Boris went? Now we're going to try figure the conundrum of the Boris the marching crocodile. While we do that, Jamie's still with those beautiful big male lions.
While Brent solves his mystery, we are with our beautiful big male lions, and finally they have shifted around so that we've got a view of at least one of them, rather than seeing them from the backs of their heads. Tinyo is here, most definitely, with his half moon cut out of his right ear, and of course his very scarred face and very dark mane. It's been unbelievable to watch the change over the last year and a half, as their manes of the Birmingham boys have darkened from that golden blonde colour to now a proper full mane of dark hair. Now he's the one that was actually, it wasn't the one that was lying in front of me, he was the one that was lying off to the left. His buddy has moved further into the drainage line, or into the river system, and unfortunately it's tricky for us to reposition around him. So we're going to stick with this view for now, and then we'll try and figure out who the second male lion is once we have a chance, or perhaps he'll get up and move. I'm hoping the two of them might decide to go and have a drink, since the waterhole is not too far away. That would definitely make our lives a little bit easier. You can see him licking away. He's also got a few freshish wounds. You can see him cleaning his legs and cleaning his paws. Soraya, you want to know if there are any threatening male lion coalitions, or coalitions that would be a threat to the Birmingham boys at the present time? Not really. They seem to, from what I understand, they seem to have secured themselves quite a good spot. Now, of course, we've spoken quite a bit about the Matimba males and the fact that they've moved through Birmingham boy territory and to the northern side of Manuleti. To the northern side of Buffelshoek, which is the boundary, the sort of northern boundary of Birmingham boy territory. That I don't think they're a threat to them at all. I think the two Matimba males, unless the Birmingham boys were to split up and make their way that side. From the conversation I was having with the Arathusa tracker this morning, one of the Birmingham boys has a bite mark on his back, a wound on his back, and I don't think they're going to be, I haven't heard them roaring or anything like that, so I don't think they're really challenging the Birmingham boys at all. They're just moving away. Now the Majingilans, the three Majingilans, one of them is in very bad condition, the fourth is in very bad condition. He stayed further to the south. The three Majingilans have moved up a little bit further to the north, closer to Birmingham boy territory, but still not really in it. They're still skirting the outskirts of their own territory. So I don't think that they're too much of a problem either. There's some interesting changes, I think, shifts in dynamics happening further to the south of us. But none of those carry a major threat for our Birmingham boys. They seem to have established themselves quite well. But that could change in a heartbeat. I mean, something could happen further to the south of us. The male lion coalition could push another further to the north. And anything like that could result in a new threat to the Birmingham boys. I think they're pretty well established, though. And, of course, they've got the advantage of being quite young, which also helps. Young and full of energy, and of course, being younger, they heal faster. So injuries like the one that he has on his lip, looks like an injury. Yeah, it's definitely another cut to your lip, mister. Injuries like that will just heal up that little bit faster. Male lion dynamics are constantly shifting, and it's also important to remember that their territorial boundaries are quite fluid. They change constantly, depending upon where the lions are, where the lion prides are. The biggest threat actually was potentially to the Nkuhumas, with the Matimba males being quite so close to them initially, but it seems as though that threat's been completely mitigated by the movement of the Nkuhumas further south. And the Matimba males, goodness, I can't keep my line straight. The Matimba males don't seem to be showing any interest in following them. And of course I actually don't know where the other two Birmingham males are. I honestly have no idea. I haven't heard them called in this morning. I haven't heard any reports of them. They might be patrolling up further to the north. That lip looks a little bit sore. You can see in the twitches of his face and the injury underneath his eye. He's got a few cuts and scrapes. There was a video of the two Birmingham boys scrapping a couple of days ago. It must have been about a week ago now. So they do fight each other. Generally, I think that the injuries that we see them with are usually inflicted by another member of their coalition. For now, though, it's amazing how quickly all of that is forgotten with male lions. They fight each other. There's a serious confrontation. There's lots of growling, scratch and bite at each other. And then it's done. It's over and done. The battle is decided, and it's all peaceful. Head rubs all around, gentle affection to each other. It's always a fascinating dynamic, getting to know individual male lion coalitions. Very peaceful. Shame, he's trying to tuck his head under his paw so that the flies stop bugging him, stop sitting on his injuries. You can see it.
Right, everyone, here we are at Chitwa Dam with the drone. And what we're investigating is the second Egyptian goose nest. And there it is. You can see the Egyptian goose sitting in there on her eggies. And with any luck, those ones will fare better than the ones that are just above. We'll take a little bit of time shortly to show you the ones just above. But for now, we're going to just go around that goose. Now, you may ask yourself, how on earth is he able to tell what is being seen on the drone? You might think, surely he has become psychic. You would be incorrect. I am standing next to the drone commander as we speak. Feel like I'm in a hallowed space. You know, like if you walk into the NASA control room during a moon landing and you didn't know what was going on, you'd feel kind of intimidated by the technical know-how and expertise all around you. You wouldn't feel that you could make a contribution. Well, that's what's going on here. I stand next to the commander, and he is well, he's not smiling, really. He's not a smiley fellow when he's flying his drone. So there is an Egyptian goose on her eggs. Now, if I might prevail upon him to go up to the top, and let's perhaps look into the top nest. There we go. Now, what we discovered yesterday is that, well, yes, the eggs are still there, probably about 12 of them. No adult. We've yet to see an adult on top there. There they all are. And only 9% of the day is the female not on the eggs. Obviously, that's from a number of samples. So I'm sure there's a range there of up to, say, 20% of the day the female does not sit on the eggs. We have never seen an adult on those eggs, and they've now been, we've been filming them for about 4 or 5 weeks. And so almost certainly those eggies are either rotten or hard-boiled, which is a bit sad. I wonder if it hasn't got to do with the fact that it's so exposed to the sun. Well, I mean, it's not that exposed to the sun, but maybe that's why the female decided that she would settle somewhere else. I don't know if it's the same female who's now on another nest just down below. But those eggs will remain almost untouched, of course, because there are no predators that can get up there, like snakes and that sort of thing. Right, very nice. Shall we pop gently across to the hippo pod, off to the left there? There we are. This is quite fun. It's like these beeping noises coming from our drone. There is the hippo pod, very relaxed there. Ooh. And if Connor flies over the edge of the dam, there is a herd of elephants that we could get a long distance view of. We're not going to take a very close view of them. Elephants can sometimes be a little nervous of the drone, but this drone is now a good 150 to 200 meters from them, so they're not at all affected. Isn't that cool? Beautiful clearings here in front of the dam. And this is the kind of place, if you ever come to Africa and you ever self-drive yourself around, the best thing to do is to come and find a waterhole like this and sit here for the day. You will see all sorts of things. I've no doubt that during the course of the day there will be waterbuck, there will be impala, there will be nyala, there will be elephants, there could be hippos coming out of the water, possibly the odd buffalo coming down, and if you're lucky, a predator or two. They're enjoying the marula fruits there, it looks like to me. Picking up each individual marula. And of course this is the boon time, and we were asked the other day, I forget which animal precisely, I think there was a quite excited Film's just pointing at things. There's some impala behind us, Connor. There were some quite excited elephant bulls, and somebody said, did we think that the amount of sugar they're consuming as a result of the marulas is perhaps making them a little bit more boisterous? And I do. I think that is absolutely the case. What are we looking at there? I can't even see. The elephants. Big bull moving off to the north. Marvellous. I'm actually looking at Connor's screen, which is quite fun. Shall we go and have a look at the impalas behind us? You'll see us now. There I am, standing next to the drone commander. There's Wiem and Tandi on the back of the other car. And there are the impala in the spillway of the dam. Also completely unaffected by the drone, which is great. And I don't see any crocodilians in here. What a remarkable morning it's been tracking a crocodile with Brent all the way to Buffelshoek Dam. I don't think that's actually arrived there. Isn't that lovely? One or two nyalas in amongst that lot. You can probably hear the dim buzz of the propellers as we go. Connor, would you like to give us any narration of what's going on here?
I see the alarm calls of the impala.
You are absolutely correct. Connor is saying that the impala are alarm calling. He's absolutely right. Right, let's get over the back of them. They are looking down towards the drainage line there. Now maybe there's a leopard. That could be quite fun. Let's see if we can't find it. Straight through over the top of the drainage. Have you still got signal there?
Yeah.
This is fascinating. Let's keep an eye out. Tandi the leopard, as opposed to Tandi the lion researcher, could easily be knocking about in here. Otherwise, perhaps a male. I can't see anything there. and perhaps follow around. There looks to be a road that goes along here towards the dam. She might be coming along that road there. That's it. Just if you come to the north a bit, there's a road that comes along here.
Yeah, that's where I'm looking.
Is that where you're looking? Right, let's see if we can't spot a leopard there. This is fun. They've stopped alarming now, so whatever it was hasn't panicked them too much. Come on, Connor, find a leopard. This would be your first predator spot, wouldn't it? I suppose you found the dogs before. No, they've all got very chilled out suddenly. Maybe it was going the other way. Oh. What happens if we fire? Let's try a flight off to the... Can you go to the south from here?
Yeah.
Off towards those clearings, and let's see if perhaps they didn't catch a whiff of a predator on the wind, and that's what gave them a bit of a fright. There's the cut line to the right hand side. That's the boundary where we're not allowed to go, and there are those gorgeous clearings to the west of the airstrip. How fast are we going now, Connor?
14 meters per second.
We're going at 14 meters per second, everybody. That's quite quick.
An elephant running around there.
There's an elephant. Now there's an elephant, to my mind, who has eaten too many marulas. There's no drunkenness involved in that. He's definitely very alarmed. The drone is nowhere near him, so he's not... I mean, he's running at the drone, so he's not being alarmed by the drone. Something has given him a tremendous fright. Oh, it's another elephant meeting up. Had no idea they were there. That was fantastic. There are lots of elephants there. That's a totally different herd from the one we were looking at. Those clearings stuffed full of marulas. So that's what's going on there. They're all on a bit of a sugar high, like my nephews get onto. Terrifying situation when that happens. Connor also gets on a sugar high every so often. He eats about a slab and a half of chocolate every day unless Chandra polices him quite carefully. Thankfully he hasn't had his sugar yet. The drone would be going much faster than it is now. Lots and lots of herds of elephants there. But no predator. We'll just keep an eye out around the dam here while you look at the elephants. Make sure that a leopard doesn't wander down for a sip to drink somewhere here. It's a lovely morning, beautiful cloud cover, giving us a nice cool for a change morning. I've no doubt it will be volcanically hot by the time 12 o'clock rolls around. And then maybe let's have a look at the weather, Connor. Shall we look at the sky? Alrighty. That's the weather, that's the cloud cover there, and we're going to link away. I'm not sure to whom, don't know what they're doing. Hope it's fun. See you shortly.
Now the crocodile conundrum continues. Boris has been to this massive waterhole I'm sitting next to. I think he has removed all terrapins from Gwari Pan. Now, if we have a look here, you can see where he slid straight into the water here. And the really cool part is you can see how big his foot is. Look at that. And that's his back foot. See how big it is. I mean, as big as the palm of my hand, so as big as a male lion track, but then with the toes and the claws it's even bigger. Now what looks like Boris has had a great time in here munching terrapins, and then we're trying to look here. So here he's come out. You can see the mud trail coming here. It's quite dry, so I'm guessing this is early last night, and we're gonna try and see where he goes next. It seems like the tracks are heading back to Twin Dams. So we might have bypassed each other parallel in this big block of bush here. So let's see where he goes next. Now, there's a very strong possibility if he gets tired, here he is going through there, he might stop in a little dry riverbed, an area like that to rest up for the day. So we're going to be checking carefully under guarri bushes for the next little while. He's gone straight down through here. Okay, so while we continue on Boris's slightly confusing tracks, let's go see what Jamie's up to.
Speaking of slightly confusing, we have definitely confirmed that it is in fact Mufmo, the second male lion here, which I was so hoping was the case, just so that we could have a look and see how that injury on his face is doing. It seems to have healed up quite nicely. I can't see if it's just because it's covered in dirt, but there doesn't seem to be any signs of fresh blood or anything. It doesn't even seem to be weeping all that much, which is wonderful news. It's really, really good news for him. But because he's just in that one of those kind of moods, earlier on we were perfectly positioned to see his face, and then just as Brent sent you across to us, he hid his face again behind the tamboti trees. It's also a monkey's wedding, by the way. It is raining, and we are sitting in sunlight, which certainly came as a surprise. I don't think there's any major panic, Dave, given that the sky is blue above us, but it did just spit a few drops on us. Actually very nice. Lovely weather this morning. What do you think, Dave? Forward? Backwards? He's not doing us any favors. No. Rebecca says nowhere, because this unfortunately is quite a tricky signal patch for us. We're right on the boundary of Cheetah Plains, so I'm not going anywhere. We'll just have to wait for him to lift his heads. Emma, you want to know how many prides of lions frequent our reserve, because obviously we've spoken a bit about the male coalitions. Now you want to know about the female pride and their related offspring. In our area that we see, we get the Nkuhumas, which is a pride of 5 lionesses and 6, as far as I know, 6 cubs. I haven't seen them in about 2 months, but as far as I know, 6 cubs. There's the Styx pride, 3 females and 2 young cubs. And then we occasionally get to see the Tsalala pride as well, which has the 3 young males, 1 young female, and 1 tailless female, which is always fascinating to see. Other than that, we have yet to encounter, or at least while I've been here on our live safaris, I have not encountered any other prides of lions. There are the Talamati pride, there's also the Torchwood pride. The Talamati pride a little bit further to the north, and the Torchwood pride around Kruger and the sort of Torchwood area, hence the name. But of course, as we've spoken before, lion territories and home ranges are very fluid, and they often change depending on the season. And I think that's largely why we haven't seen much of the Nkuhumas. There haven't been enough buffalo for them to hunt, so they've abandoned us and gone to the vast open areas of northern Buffelshoek and Manyeleti. Luckily, it seems as though they are returning once again, so hopefully we'll see them. And of course, that's just in our area, and we traverse we're on about 3,000 hectares now, which is just a tiny percentage of the 65,000 hectare property of the Sabi Sand. And of course, if you go even further than that, because we're part of an unfenced series of reserves, so they're all connected to each other without fences in between them, that's 4 million acres of unfenced wilderness. So there's most definitely more than 3 prides, or than the 3 prides that we see. There are lots of them all around us. And we're actually very close to an area that is known for being the highest density of lions in Africa, which is, the name's just gone straight out of my head. The camp in Kruger begins with an S. Dave says he doesn't know. Not Skukuza. Satara. Thank you, Rebecca. Satara, that is the one I was thinking of. The Satara area. Thank you, Steph, who is presumably sitting in final control. But those are generally the lions that we see. When I first arrived here, this area, or a large portion of this area, was controlled by a coalition known as the Matimba males. Hence our constant discussion of the fact that the Matimba males have returned back up here. The Arathusa tracker I was talking to made such a sweet, quite a poetic comment about the fact that he thought that the Matimbas were coming home. They decided that this, I mean, look, whether or not it is actually the case, or whether they then choose to return back to the south, to the prides that they have fathered cubs with, will remain to be seen. But the way he phrased it was very, very sweet. The Matimba males are quite a lot older than the Birmingham boys, and they have led long lives as the dominant males in this area. The Birmingham boys are just getting started. They've only just fathered their first set of cubs. Lion prides and coalitions dotted all over the show. Mufmo, not that you know that that's your name, but if you did, I don't suppose you'd want to lift your head up for us. It would be very convenient, just so we can double check. I think that injury is looking better, but it's very hard for me to actually show that to you while he's hidden behind a tambuti tree. Dave, why don't you just go move that branch quickly? Sure. Cool. Thank you. Perfect. Please don't. Please don't do that. I would feel terrible. So he is the one with the puncture wounds on his back and on his legs as well. I presume you all saw that when you were with Brent, but I think that the injury next to his eye was this sort of the overwhelming one that everybody's attention was focused on. He was lucky with that injury. It was right next to his eyeball. And we know that lions do lose eyes. It does happen in scraps or in proper fights. And that came very, very close. Hopefully he manages to fight off the infection, and we don't have a repeat of his cheek injury with the infestation of maggots that had. Very good question, because we've seen Mufmo constantly rubbing at his cheek injuries in the past, and it's a lovely question coming through from Courtney about whether or not the lions will try and rub mud on their faces, or if they will try and keep it to stop the flies sitting on it, or will they try and lick it constantly to keep it clean. Bit of a combination of both of those things. So often you'll see them when they're sleeping, although he's not doing it at the moment, but often you'll see when they're sleeping they try and sleep with the injury down on the ground. They don't necessarily go up to mud and rub it on them like a spa treatment, but they do lie in the dirt to try and keep the flies off their injury, and they don't have any qualms about if they're lying in soft mud type soil. They don't have any qualms about plonking their head down on there. But they also keep it, I don't know that I would call it keeping it clean. And it's an attempt at keeping it clean, but it's actually more really keeping it open. Especially when it's a facial wound, because they can't turn around and just lick it. They have to lick their paws and then rub that injury. And I don't really know whether that actually doesn't just make it worse for them, because it just stops that healing process. Every time the body starts to lay down new cells, they come and they rub them away on that fragile injury. And of course, then you've got the added, it's not as bad, but you've got the added disadvantage of the fact that their mouths are not clean places. Although one of the most dangerous bites you can have in the world is a human bite, as a human being. It almost invariably becomes infected if you get bitten by somebody, apparently. Not something I've fortunately escaped that particular injury in my life. But yeah, their saliva is not particularly clean. There are some arguments that there are antibiotic properties to their saliva. Perhaps there would have to be, given the state of their mouths and the state of the food that they eat. But I still think that the amount of... What was that? Ah, I know what that was. I thought that was a growl. It was, just not from the front end. So while we attempt to avoid that scent, let's go across, because I really think Brent has finally accomplished his goal.
Now we have found Boris in the bush after eating all his terrapins at the tiny little pan. We're now about 4 meters, or maybe even a little bit less than 4 meters from Boris, and Isn't this amazing? We've tracked and found a crocodile on foot. You can see him breathing. Now, what he's hoping at the moment is that we think he's a log. So, he's quite aware about the bipedal figure of man. He knows he can't outrun us. Now, he's very lucky, because if we were in a survival situation, this would be one of the best free meals we had found, because he can't get away from us. And of course there are risks when it comes to hunting crocodiles, but when they're out of the water, they do lose a lot of their advantage. Now we're going to very carefully try and move in front of him. So it's unlikely that he will charge us, but he might. So just be warned. But we can hopefully jump out of his way quite quickly. So they got a very good first burst. They are capable of getting up to sort of 15-20 kilometers an hour on land, but not for very long. Now, quite unusually for a bushwalk, normally we often stop and look at lots of little things along the way, but Herbie and I were so convinced we were going to find this crocodile that we had to keep on the tracks. Now, when it comes to crocodiles, generally I'd prefer a stick a little bit longer than this, but so we used to do egg collection as well in my younger years, and from crocodile farms and stuff, you got to collect the eggs, and the only thing we took with us was a very long stick. So you see that ball on a crocodile's nose. Now, as I said, there's lots of those little sensory organs there. It's also, because of all those organs, there's a big barrel of nerves there. So actually, when people say if you get taken by a crocodile, go for its eyes, and not absolute nonsense. You go for its nose. Its nose is basically a big bunch of nerves, and if you hit it hard enough, or even just tap it with a stick, it'll generally make the croc move away. Now, again, please, if you're not sure what you're doing, don't do this. If you come across a crocodile out of the water, stay behind it, don't get in front of it, and keep your distance. Now, as I said, I've been playing with crocodiles since I was about 13 years old. So Boris is very aware. So I'm going to keep a little branch in front of us, okay, just in case he does decide to come forward towards us. There we go. Head on with the Nile crocodile. So I didn't get that. So I didn't catch that name again, so let me just reposition my earpiece. It's giving a bit of problems. Okay, there we go. There we go. Aqua, like water, is wondering whether Boris is injured. That's why he's hunting for terrapins and moving around. I don't think so, Aqua. What I think the big problem with Boris is it's the rainy season. And because it's the rainy season, the animals aren't, and the bigger animals aren't drawn down towards the water, so he hasn't had too many opportunities to grab something like an impala or a warthog. And the second big problem is I think the drought killed his main food source, which is of course the sharp-toothed catfish, which can get as big as me. So mostly crocodiles in this part of the world, they'll feed mostly off catfish and terrapins, as we've seen. Now I think that drought has completely wiped out a lot of the catfish populations, which is forcing Boris to move from these little pans to hunt terrapins. Isn't that scary? Hello, Boris. Well, thanks to everyone who says well done to Bushwalk for their tracking skills. It was a very exciting track. Herbie, your first time, huh? Yes, Herbie's first time to track a crocodile on foot for this long and find him out of the water. It was my second time. And strangely enough, I've bumped into crocs out of the water while driving in Botswana and Zambia, Tanzania, but I've never really actively tracked one apart from once in the southern Sabi Sands. Again, at this time of the year, I think a similar situation, the opposite situation. We'd had a massive flood, and the crocs had moved out of the river and stuff because the water was rushing too heavily, and we did find a croc in an area very similar to this. Now, I'm just going to try, let's go this way a little bit, Craig. Let's see if we can get a side-on view through a gap of Boris's smile. I just want to say my favorite little Peter Pan quote before we go, and maybe, there we go. You can see he's watching us. Never smile at a crocodile, Craig. He's watching you. Isn't that so very cool? Dina is wondering where the expression crocodile tears come from. Do their eyes actually water? No, Dina. As far as I remember, and I might be wrong, so I'm quite happy to be corrected, the phrase crocodile tears comes from someone who's crying insincerely, because a crocodile doesn't cry over whatever it kills. So it's insincere, it's non-believing. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's where it comes from. Okay, Craig, I just want to try to see if I can get you into a slightly better spot. Okay, Craig, do you think you can get here?
Oh, dearie me. We seem to have lost both Brent and James. Don't worry, we haven't lost them completely. They've just seemed to both have wandered into struggling signal areas. Luckily for us, we can't move either. That's good news, isn't it, Dave? Shall we have a look at some butterflies? There's a grass yellow. There he is. Here we go. Oh, you must know, when I start looking at butterflies, unless it's a diadem, we are checking to see what else is around. There's a spider hunting wasp. Oh, never mind. Come this way. Come back this way. What unfortunate timing. And there's our broad-banded grass yellow, one of the prettiest little butterflies that we see out here. And of course we had that glorious trip up to Mariepskop that Brent and myself did, seeing the butterflies gathering on the top of the mountain. I have never seen butterflies in that number before in my life. It was utterly, utterly gorgeous. Mariepskop is the highest mountain in this part of the Drakensberg. So it's just the final end point of the Drakensberg mountains that run all the way through our country. And Mariepskop has this incredible view across the Lowveld, across the Blyde River Canyon, and all sorts of beautiful things in between. It seemed to be a gathering point for all of the butterflies flying up over the misty rainforests below. You get all sorts of really unusual plant life, stuff that we never ever see here. This place is pretty much dominated by bush willow woodland, and in this particular spot, this is pure bush willow woodland. Almost every single tree that I'm looking at now is a bush willow of some form, whether it's red or variable or large fruited. Lots and lots of them. Whereas if you go up into Mariepskop, you even get the national tree of South Africa, which is the yellowwood. And then fynbos a little bit further up. Rebecca, are you sure I can't drive any further? That's towards better signal. It should be better signal up that way. Let us. Is a monkey's wedding a South African expression? I think it is, actually. A monkey's wedding is when it's raining but it's sunny. So obviously you get a little cloud burst above you, but the sun is still shining. That is a monkey's wedding. I guess it is a South Africanism. As to where it comes from, I have absolutely no idea. Why would it be a monkey's wedding? I suppose because they're mischievous and unexpected and contrary. What would you call it then if you don't call it a monkey's wedding? When it's raining and it's sunny at the same time? Bad luck, perhaps. Now, I'm just trundling slowly in the hope that somehow by moving slowly it's going to help our signal. Just into Nkoro here, just by the way. Oh, I remember what I wanted to talk to you about before I got distracted by the sudden need to be stationary. We were talking about lion coalitions to the Birmingham boys. Between all of the guides in this area, the male lion coalitions are very well established and kept track of. But what happened to me once, where I used to work, was it was an area completely separate from the Greater Kruger and a closed system. 25,000 hectares closed system, which meant that we had an even better idea of all of the different lion dynamics and what everything was. And then all of a sudden one day, there was a massive male lion in the middle of the property. Never seen him before. And he's still there. He established himself, he established a territory, he completely changed the dynamics, shifted everything around in terms of the other male coalitions because he was very big, very powerful. Probably came in from an area called Baluli, which is still part of the Greater Kruger area, but quite a lot further away from us. And it just goes to show, sometimes animals do very unpredictable things, and the fence doesn't actually keep in anything, necessarily. So, although the Greater Kruger is vast and enormous, it does have a boundary fence, but a lion, you spoke before with James about the fact that Hosana could travel far in order to establish himself a territory, just in the way that Sindile has been moving all around this area. And lions can do the same, and they can disperse from an area where they might feel overly pressured, break through a fence, climb under a fence, and all of a sudden you have a lion that you've never seen before, that nobody's ever seen before. More common with leopards, but it does happen with lions as well, and they completely throw all of your careful conceptions out of the window. So that does occur. And it's always fascinating when it does. And of course it's great because it provides some really interesting new genetic material for the lions in that particular area. So I've seen that happen before. Just one male, but it could easily happen with a coalition as well. And often we hear stories of lions all of a sudden on the main road around Hoedspruit, past the airport, giving tourists a fright, and really truly the perception that if you are South African, you grew up with lions wandering around on the streets, which isn't actually true unless you grew up in Phalaborwa. Well, the good news is James seems to have found some signal that is slightly more stable than mine. Let's go and see what he is up to.
We've just lost some water back there, just around the corner here, everybody. They were down here in the Boris Free Pond. Now I'm jealous and amazed and astounded that Boris was found out of the water. Brilliant. That is really, really exciting stuff. There goes all of the waterbuck. They've disappeared. Thanks so much. Thank you. Thank you very much for your efforts for the safari today. Thank you. Have a nice day. Good. Anyway, let's continue around here, and then we're going to head down towards, or up towards the north. Breakfast is starting to fill my nostrils. Vultures taking to the air as the day gets hotter. And Brent is just calling in the crocodile now. Nobody expected that when they got out of bed this morning. That's so cool. Now the radio is going crazy. Brent just called it in on the game drive, and everyone's asking about it. Alright, let's head across to Jamie. Our signal is also a bit low here.
We're playing ping pong at the moment in terms of signal. It seems as though ours is the most stable, Dave. So we shall go very, very slowly along this road and not towards the Mulwanini. Mshadu Wezinkau. Mshadu Wezinkau. That is the Zulu term, and that is where apparently the South African expression comes from. So it's a direct translation of the Zulu phrase for when it's raining and the sun is shining, presumably. And that came through from, sorry Rebecca, I was so busy trying to remember the Zulu. White Lady Eowyn. White Lady Eowyn. Presumably a Lord of the Rings reference. Thank you very much for that. Much appreciated. So there we go. It is a South African term. It is a South Africanism. A monkey's wedding. So what's it called elsewhere? That's what I want to know. Apart from unexpected. What is a... I had a feeling, actually, now that you mention it, I did know that it was a South African expression, but I did not know that it came from the Zulu term. So thank you. That is really, truly fascinating. I'm checking really carefully. This is where we saw Tundi yesterday. So I'm just checking very carefully for tracks. I did on my... Uh-oh. I'm so busy checking very carefully for tracks. I'm blocking some poor person's route home. Let me shift off. Here we go. And just wait for them to come past. This is a main access road. Cheers! And now we sit patiently and wait for the dust to settle, rather than driving after them straight into the Mulwanini dip. Alright, signal. Alright, I'll hold off on my departure back towards the west and show you this bug that I've found. Excuse me, the zip on my jacket's broken, so I actually have to shuffle it out of it this way. Here we go. Okay, drop my phone in the sand. Don't fly away, because you're actually really beautiful. And at the moment, okay, or fly away. That's fine with me. Come here, onto this leaf. Come on. Come on, pretty thing. Here we go. It's a mystery bug. These Waltheria plants attract all sorts of really, truly fascinating insect life. You got it there, Dave. Look at that. Oh, it has wings. It's about to disappear. There you go. Okay, it has wings, but apparently not... I was tempting fate. I was about to say not the best flyer. I deserved that. I definitely deserved that for insulting that particular insect's ability to fly. I hope you got some good screen grabs of it, because I was so busy trying to catch it that I didn't actually manage to get a really good look at it. It looked beautiful from where I was sitting. So as does that bird where it is sitting. Let's go and have a look at that. What are we guessing, Dave? Kingfisher or roller?
Roller.
I'm saying roller as well. General impression of size and shape. European. Don't fly away, please. Alright, do fly away. Just one of those days. We're not destined to film birds or butterflies or bugs this morning. At least the lions couldn't fly away, or they would have. Jakkals tro met wolfse vrou is the Afrikaans expression. Dava, I should have asked you that.
No, I didn't know it.
You didn't know it? Davy. Thank you, White Lady Eowyn. Jakkals tro met wolfse vrou. Jackal marries wolf's wife is the Afrikaans expression for a monkey's wedding. My goodness, but apparently sunny weather with rain apparently inspires animal expressions. It's interesting. So we've gone from monkeys to jackals. Why was Jackal marrying Wolf's wife? And what did Wolf think about that? Wolf must have been thoroughly unimpressed. Was she still Wolf's wife? I mean, it's legal in South Africa. Although, yeah, polygamy is legal in South Africa. This is bizarre. In Hawaii, it is called pineapple juice. And that is from, sorry, Rebecca, that was from Ginny. Ginny sent through that in Hawaii it's called pineapple juice. Here we go. So we've got pineapple juice, we've got some kind of family drama with Jackal and Wolf, and potentially some kuckelding going on there as well. And we've got monkeys getting married. You combine it all and you have a really, really interesting soap opera with some very strange events and pineapple juice to drink. Fascinating. It's so random. It really is. Well, there we go. I've learned something new today. I won't ever forget any of those expressions. I hope I don't forget any of those expressions. The gaping chasm of the Mulwanini approaches. Let's find a bird, Dave. The butterflies won't sit still. I don't even know why I think a bird will sit still this morning, because they apparently don't want to. Not today. White Eowyn has now provided us with another one from Tanzania, which was what's Simba? Anaza. Anaza. The lioness, literally translated, the lioness is giving birth. Or perhaps somewhere there was a lioness giving birth this morning. It's a nice thought. Right, so we really do have a dramatic wedding. We've got the monkeys getting married. Right, so the rest of the world apparently, apart from the animal dramas that go on and the love of pineapple juice, the rest of you apparently just call it sun showers. There you go. Let's send you over to James while we go through Gremlin Hollow.
This is very sad. Look over here. We have a broken marula limb. And that was where Karula, about 4 weeks ago, climbed, and she was looking at a nyala who was standing through here. And now the elephants have come through, and one of them, recalcitrant so-and-so that he was, broke it off.
So it's not Hosana with these simple weight.
Do you think it was Hosana? Wiem suspects Hosana because he's so heavy. Them, of course, is being deeply facetious. That's very interesting. On we go. We're not far from home at this stage, so we'll just wander up onto quarantine. There was a hyena at the dam cam recently, so we might intercept it, perhaps coming back down towards the den site areas here. That would be quite nice. I don't know what's going on with all of these den sites and things, I must say. I find it all rather confusing. I'm not sure why it is that they cannot bring themselves to settle down. Justin S., this is the question on the tip of everyone's tongue, front of everyone's mind. Will Shadow perhaps have more luck with these cubs than she's had before? Justin S., there is absolutely no way of telling, I'm afraid. I am convinced myself that her loss of cubs has got nothing to do with sheer bad luck only. I think it's got a lot to do with the fact that she just comes into estrus. That's disgusting. Don't want to fly for breakfast. She just comes into estrus too soon. And it means that she then neglects the cubs that she has, and they don't survive. And so whether or not that will happen less and less as she gets slightly older, I don't know. But she's not old yet. She's almost 10. I keep forgetting when her birthday is. So she's not an old leopard. I don't know, Justin. I do hope so, because it's rather traumatizing. I mean, we weren't particularly traumatized by the loss of Zara, that was her last cub, simply because we only met her twice. And she then just disappeared. We didn't see her. We don't know what happened to her, how she died. And so that was very unpleasant. But it didn't affect us in the same way as it would if we'd lost Hosana or Shongile. Now, whether or not we'll spend the same amount of time with these ones as we did with Sindile, for example, I don't know. I hope so, and perhaps they will fare better, but it'll be very tragic if the same situation just keeps perpetuating itself with Shadow. I mean, it is difficult to raise cubs to the adulthood like Karula has managed to do, and it's not usual. I don't think that a leopard manages to raise as many as Karula has. I've no doubt there are many that have done it, but it's not common. I'm just trying to think of the leopards I've known and how many they've managed to raise. Yeah, look, it's not that unusual to have achieved what Karula's achieved. It is, I think, definitely above average. And I mean, for Shadow to have produced so very few, and to have her only remaining offspring surviving because we happen to intervene. I mean, not we as Wild Earth, but as the Sabi Sand. You know, yeah, I don't know. And certainly, I was under the impression that Shadow was coming into estrus when we did eventually take Sindile out. Okay, everybody, as the sun starts to heat, we're going to say goodbye to you. Thank you very much for coming on Drive with us. Thank you, VM, for your efforts today. Well done. Is that an aeroplane or the drone? Oh, very strange. All right, everyone, we'll see you later today at 4 o'clock this afternoon. I'll be in the tent. You'll meet Tundi properly this time, and so that's something huge to look forward to. Bye-bye.